Okay guys, this will be example 1 for 6.2. So now we're going to learn how to solve simple equations. And these are simple because you can think of these as one step. In all honesty, this is something we could have introduced in chapter 1. This is not beyond anybody who's understood what I've been saying all year. Look at what happens to the variable and think, how do you undo what happened? So the first one is x squared equals 25. So x is being taken to the second. The only way I know how to undo that is a second root or a square root. Notice again, I don't write the 2's when I'm taking a square root, only for higher powers. Square root and square cancel, so I'm left with x equals, when I plug this in my calculator, I get out a 5. But you have to remember the rule that we talked about earlier. You have to have this memorized. Anytime you take an even root, your answer is positive and negative, okay? So the answer to this would be plus minus 5, or positive 5 and negative 5. And you can check it in your calculator. 5 squared equals 25, and negative 5 squared equals 25. Notice I put these in parentheses. I've been talking about this all year. Whenever you substitute, you have to substitute in parentheses. If you do not substitute in parentheses, this answer will be negative 25. And I've gone over the concept of negative 5 squared versus the negative of 5 squared several times. Now, x cubed equals 8. Same concept. I am looking at a number to the third power equals 8. To undo that, I have to take a third root. So now I'm actually going to be writing in that that index of 3. So cancel, cancel. I'm left with x equals 2. I took an odd root, so I do not have to worry about the even and odd, or the multiple answers. There's only one answer there. So now let's look. X to the fourth is 16. And I'm sorry if I'm moving kind of quickly. You can go back and look at these, but really this is undo the exponent by taking the equal root. And then this goes into your calculator. Some of these you should know, but if you need to put in your calculator, this is what comes out. And then you just have to know, is my calculator answer my only answer, or do I have plus minus? X to the fourth is 16. So I have to take the fourth root of both sides. I'm left with x equals 2 to the fourth is 16. But since I took an even root, my answer is positive negative 2. Okay? X cubed is negative 125. So I'll give you a second to think. You should be third rooting both sides. That leaves me with x equals negative 5. Odd root, one answer. X squared equals 9. All right. Square rooting both sides. X equals 3, even root, positive negative. So hopefully these are starting to get a little bit faster. The hardest part will be plugging these into your calculator. And just so you know, to take a higher root in your calculator, if you're using Desmos, I'm not going to switch to Desmos, I'll just explain it to you and you can search it on your own. You go to the keyboard, and then from the keyboard, you will look under functions on the right-hand side. You click on that, and then you go up into miscellaneous, and then you will see a little nth root button. So you go keyboard, and then once you're into your keyboard, you go all the way to the right, you look at functions, and then you go up to what's called miscellaneous out of the top 3, and then that will get you into this button. If you need any questions on that, see me in class. All right, so x to the 5th power is 32. I'm going to have to take the 5th root on each side. X equals 2. Now, is it plus minus 2 or just 2? We took an odd root, so it is just 2. Okay? Now we got a couple more to look at. X squared is -9. So follow your rules for this. I'm going to do the opposite of squaring, which is square rooting. So I'm at x equals, and when you put this in your calculator, you should get something funny. It'll either say error, or it should just say error, actually. So if it comes up with not an answer, it's because, can I take the square root of a negative? No, I cannot. There is no number times itself that would produce a negative, because we know a positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. The only way to end up with a negative is a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive. These are invalid because this says the number squared, which means a number times itself. If you were going to use a number times itself, it would have to be the same sign repeated. So this would be the only viable concept that we can look at here. All that means is x equals no solution. And that shouldn't be a far-fetched thought. What number squared is -9? There is no number. That's it. Here, though, we see it's cubed equals -27. So just follow your rules. Cube root, x is going to equal -3. And that's completely valid. A negative times a negative times a negative can give us a negative answer. This is why we have our rules that we talked about up top. We have different rules for even exponents than we do for odds, and it's because of this concept. Two negatives make a positive. So if you don't understand the concepts, they'll keep coming and we'll keep talking about it, but what we need to know is the rule. When we take an even root, you have a plus-minus answer. If when you take that even root, the calculator gives you no solution, you're done. If you're taking an odd root, whatever the calculator gives you is your solution. All right, that concludes the example 1 for section 6.2.